Take care.
Hi, my name is Gina Kurtz, and I am a brown belt at 7-Star Women's Kung Fu. 7-Star Women's Kung Fu is a nonprofit women's martial arts school located in the Central District. We've been around for 30 years, and we represent 4 generations of women teaching women in the martial arts. We do a number of things to enable women to train. We offer free childcare to moms, we offer ASL interpreting, scholarships for moms who, or for any woman who can't afford to pay the dues, sliding scale dues, and we also offer free workshops, self-defense workshops in the community, and that's really a part of our mission and what we do. We set up all these programs in place so that we can enable women to train. It's a community, and so I've been a part of this community for 8 years. I also function as the school's business manager. I train, I work here, it's a big part of my life, and I really just want to share the joy of what this school is and what we're all about. 7-Star does not compete in tournaments. We do demos, demonstrations at various events in the community. As I mentioned before, we offer free community self-defense workshops, and we'll also go to at-risk populations and do self-defense that way as well. I started because I was looking for a martial art, and I was working at a really stressful job at the time, and I was really looking for an outlet, some way to decompress. And at the time, I was working with someone. She sat next to me, and she trained here. She was a black belt here, and she said, "Hey, you should just try a class and see if you like it." And so I did. I came and visited the school, and then I tried a class, and I loved it. And at the time, I lived a couple of blocks away from the school, and so it was really convenient. I loved it immediately. I came all the time. It was amazing and absolutely life-changing. I've gone from working in a really stressful environment to really working for an organization that I love and value, and whose principles I appreciate, in the community that is thriving and is inclusive. I have gotten pregnant, I had a son, and during that time I trained while I was pregnant, and there aren't that many martial arts schools where you could do that and do that safely. We have our chief instructor, who is the head instructor of the school, Sifu Michelle McVaden. We have an assistant head instructor, Sifu Allison Riley. And then we have a small staff, including myself as the business manager, as well as some childcare providers and ASL interpreters. And then the actual governing of the school is through the steering committee, or the board of directors that we have as a nonprofit. Sifu Michelle McVaden has been training for 29 years in Kaiju Kempo. She's been head instructor of 7-Star Women's Kung Fu since 1995, and her title has changed as 5th degree to chief instructor 5 years ago.
7-Star Women's Kung Fu was founded in 1981 by my first teacher, Ann Moon. And I started in the school a year and a half after it was formed. And I stuck around, and I became the head instructor because I was the one who kept going. And originally, I talked my way into the beginner cycle, even though it was 2 weeks past the open enrollment date. And Ann Moon was glad I did 6 years later, when she decided to take a sabbatical, and I was acting head instructor until she returned. And then we became co-head instructors. And then when she retired from teaching in 1995, I took over the school officially, and now I've been promoted to 5th degree black belt by my current teacher, Barbara Bones, who was Ann Moon's teacher. And so now I'm called chief instructor. 7-Star practices a style called Kaiju Kempo, and that's a made-up word, made up of syllables that represent the 5 styles that the art is. So it's an eclectic art made up of karate, judo and jiu-jitsu, Chinese Kempo, and what's called Chinese boxing, which really represents Silampai Kung Fu. So Ka, Ju, Ken, Bo, the 4 syllables, represent those arts. And what's different about Kaju Kembo from other styles of Kung Fu is it originated in Hawaii. Filipino and Chinese men got together to try to make an art that was going to be the best art and could defeat any other art. But the thing about it was created by men who were small, and so it's a great style for women to train in. And the other thing that's great about it is it emphasizes that you use whatever creativity and moves that work for you rather than going by rote something that might work for someone else. So that's a great aspect. That's something that is different than other classical martial arts. We encourage women to go train in other styles, whereas other arts might say you can only train here. The other thing about Kaju Kembo is it does street fighting, and that is dirty fighting using your elbows and your knees, close-in fighting. So it's closer to realistic self-defense than tournament sparring, which we don't practice at this school. And we have been an all-women's school since it was founded in 1981, and the reason we've kept it as an all-women's school is even though that nowadays there are lots of mixed schools where women do feel comfortable training, back in the 1980s when the school was formed, most schools treated women quite differently. They would say, don't do push-ups or sit-ups because you might damage your reproductive organs. No, you can't fight with the men because you might get injured and they can't push you as hard. So the reason we've kept 7 Stars an all-women's school is that many women who might have been abused or sexually traumatized in an attack feel comfortable building their self-esteem and interacting with other women in this atmosphere. So it's pretty amazing to watch women come into our 7-week beginner cycle and be transformed. Some women don't even continue training after that, and they're amazingly transformed and empowered by doing something that makes them feel strong in their body, learning how to use their voice in a way that they can transfer to their real life to stand up for themselves in situations where they might not have been able to otherwise. And over the years, as women continue to train and they start to feel themselves as martial artists, it's amazing to watch how they carry themselves differently. Their voice changes. They learn to teach through our teacher training program and then even gain natural confidence. And here at 7 Star, we in the past have had a kids program for boys and girls, but we haven't continued doing that because we have a sister school who has a great kids program, teaches the same style. Here at 7 Star, we allow girls age 13 and older to join the Kung Fu program and girls age 12 and older, and sometimes as young as 11, to do our self-defense classes. And recently we started last year, about a year and a half ago actually, a 4-week self-defense program, and we opened that to girls age 12 and older. And in the community, we teach self-defense classes to all ages and genders. Because we're an all-women's school, we have always incorporated self-defense into our Kung Fu program. So in the beginner cycle, we focus even more on self-defense than we do during the regular classes, knowing that some women are just going to take that beginner cycle and not continue on with martial arts training. So beyond that, we teach a separate self-defense only, and that is not blended with martial arts. That's strictly self-defense, doing a lot of verbal scenarios, learning to go for the eyes, the throat, and the knees, specific self-defense targets, not martial arts techniques, not kicking higher than the knees, for instance, not doing fancy kicks like in martial arts. So our self-defense program is a separate channel than our Kung Fu program. We incorporate self-defense into our Kung Fu classes.
Well, I actually study 2 kinds of martial arts. I study here, and I also study Yang and Chen Tai Chi style weapons. So I actually chose Kaja Kenbo because I wanted to learn how to fight, and this is a very practical fighting style. And As I continued in my training, I wanted more weapons work, and I went to the Pacific Association of Women Martial Artists and met my other Sifu, who is Sifu de Jesus. I have studied Kaja Kenbo for about 3 years. That's the extent of my martial arts history. I've taken some boxing courses. It's definitely a passion. It takes a considerable amount of dedication to continue to train. I find that I really am excited about learning and continuing to learn and ongoing education, and I feel like this is an education that really isn't offered in a traditional sense elsewhere. And yeah, it's definitely a big part of my life. It's part of my identity, and it's also very practical. Like, I live in Chinatown in Seattle, and that's not exactly a genteel neighborhood. And I find myself using my self-defense skills all the time. And that's not like punching out people or anything, but just verbal de-escalation. And I remember I used to get harassed a lot on the bus and public transit when I was in college and after college, and now I don't, because I know how to diffuse that situation better, and I don't come away with it with a bunch of anger and, you know, like hurt feelings like I did previously. Well, one of the best things, I usually come and train, I come and train as much as I can, but I usually train either weightlifting or Tai Chi or here right after work, and that serves a really important function for my life, because I used to take the stress of my work home with me all the time. And now it's like, you can't think about the petty things that happen at work when someone's trying to punch you, right? This real great and amazing transition that after our training, you know, the day is done. Like, everything that happened previously is gone, and now I have other things to think about. The best thing also this has taught me is that you don't want to ever fight. If you're in a violent situation, that's kind of like, it's already gone too far. And this has given me so many tools and so much inner confidence about me being able to handle things in a non-violent way. Like, if someone comes up to me, and like, I had someone grab me asking me for change, and she grabbed me, you know, and like, physical contact, it's already kind of too late, right? But you know, I was able to gently break her grab and get her away from me.
I had seen a flyer at the youth community that right upstairs from where I work, and I had recently enrolled my brother in karate and had seen the difference in him in building confidence and just how more outspoken he is, and I wanted that for myself as well. And when I saw the flyer, what really sparked my interest was that it was an all-women's nonprofit organization, and I just wanted to be a part of that, and I've always been interested in martial art. I've been a part of 7 Stars for 4 months now, and I started as the beginner's self-defense class. And from that class, from the very first day, I felt more powerful, and I felt like I gained some skills for self-defense and also self-confidence as well, and having to yell out in class and be a part of everybody else's learning process and how to defend yourself. I just fell in love right away. What have really, I feel, have been a dramatic change for me was that being able to meditate and having that time, because every time we start class, we start off with meditation and gathering yourself to be here present in class, and that just sparked my interest a little bit more about meditation, and I find myself doing that more at home as well, and I just find that I'm a lot more calm. I work in a difficult neighborhood, and there have been incidents and things like that happening recently, where safety issues, and that was part of the reason why I wanted to take the class, and I feel a little bit more prepared for that and a little bit, I guess, grounded. Seven Stars is more than just martial arts. I feel that there's a sense of community here as well, and I've been so lucky to get to know everybody, and even the higher rank students are very welcoming, and a place that is not just coming to learn the art itself. It's making friends and being able to build relationships.
So I've been studying Kajikembo Kung Fu for about 10 years. I began studying with Michelle Miller at Velocity Dance Center. She offered a course called Martial Arts for Dancers. At the time that I took the class, I was recently out of a violent relationship, so I was really looking for some ways to physically protect myself, but also to gain more physical confidence. So I had a background in dance, and this was a natural flow for me, especially taught from a dancer's perspective. I joined this school a few years later after achieving my orange belt and began training here and getting a more broader exposure to Kajikembo as an art form. What's important for training for me has shifted over the years. So I'm far less focused on simply protecting myself and much more interested in the more esoteric parts of the art. So the alignment of body, mind, and spirit, how it stays with me throughout my life. So I find that many of the concepts that we have here that we might call fighting concepts are helpful for me in my work life. So how am I working with people? How are we solving a problem that might look like a sparring session? So many of those things I've found really inform my life in a different way and have been very enriching. It has also made a huge difference for me in terms of my dance art. So I'm much more powerful in my dancing. I have a different quality to my dancing that I didn't have before. So those things have shifted. Now, I was a dance teacher before, and so here at the school, once you're a green belt, you can begin that teaching experience. And so I did have a draw to bring some of my dance experience forward into the martial arts. So the body intelligence along with the fighting intelligence. So that's one of the things that gets me excited about the teaching aspect. And also, I think something that we don't often experience in life is we really get to see people begin and grow so quickly in the art form, especially as adults. We see that with children all the time. They start and they advance, and we're so satisfied with their teeny tiny little steps. And I get to have that same experience, but with adults. So women coming in, maybe they have a slightly, a down demeanor, or they're maybe not looking you in the eye, and to watch them progress in a few months, to be able to look you in the eye, to be able to say no, to be able to accomplish something physically that they couldn't do before. It's very, very gratifying. One of the interesting things for me is that I do focus on the art in the martial art. And for others, that can be less of a focus and something that they strive for. And so the way that that comes about for me is really, what is art? So there's a performance quality to art, specifically to dance. So there's this lovely combination that I find in that crossover from dance of being specific about technique, really understanding how something is done, but then how do you make that blossom into something that's greater than the sum of its parts? So from a performance aspect, certainly when we see forms, these choreographed dance-like fights, there's a lot of material there for me to work with. But even when we work in fighting, what I love that's very similar to dance is the ability to partner with another body. So my background is predominantly in contemporary dance. And so lots of partnering, sharing of weight with another body. And so in our exercises like punch attacks, or even when we're fighting in street, there's a place where I'm in contact with another body and it's telling me something. So I really enjoy that aspect of it, and looking for, again, that greater piece, that performance piece, or that artistic quality that is there within martial arts. So along the lines of integration, or how that shows up in martial arts into life, or art into life, is being able to see those concepts, those things that we study, show up someplace else. Whether that be in another art form, so it could mean that it's informing dance or some other art form, but it can also make my life more artful.
My name is Allison Riley, and I've been training here at 7 Star. Next year will be my 20th anniversary of when I took the beginner cycle, and Sifu Michelle named me assistant head instructor approximately 2 years ago. I started training strictly for the self-defense. I didn't actually realize I would be learning Kung Fu. It didn't occur to me, even though I had grown up, you know, as a child of the 70s in Northern California, and my family, we used to go to the drive-in movies on Saturday night and watch Bruce Lee films, and to this day Bruce Lee is still my favorite martial artist ever. I mean, he's the best still. I mean, you know, Jet Li's great, Jackie Chan is awesome, but still, you know, Bruce Lee is the best. So I knew that I should learn some self-defense, and at that time I was 24 years old. I lived on Capitol Hill, which is was very different then than it is now, the same but different. And I didn't drive. Actually, I didn't even have my driver's license. I walked everywhere, and frankly, I was, you know, a 24-year-old party girl, and used to hang out at the Comet Tavern, and often walked home late at night, more than a little drunk at times, in high heels. And so I thought, you know, I really should learn some self-defense. It was right around the time that Mia Zapata was murdered. She was the lead singer of the band The Gits, and I knew that could have easily been me. She was walking home from, I believe, the Comet Tavern, and the bad guy got her, and she was raped and killed. And I knew that there, I always say there, but for the grace of the universe, that could have easily been me. I went to learn some self-defense, and also started learning Kung Fu, and realized that I just really loved it, even though I was probably would have been voted least likely to succeed, as I put it. So when I teach the beginners now, and I see that these young women, old women, all different types of women, have a really hard time with it. It's the moves are not easy for them, or it brings up emotions. I can identify. I'd never been athletic, and I literally I really didn't know my left from my right. So the movement was very hard for me to learn, but I'm stubborn, and I really wanted it. The Qi, as you may or may not know, is the universal life energy. You know, if you've watched Star Wars, right? You know, let the Force be with you. But it's basically that the idea that every living being, you know, whether it's plants or animals or humans, we emit a life force, you know, an energy. And when you train in martial arts, I mean, the whole idea is that you're bringing together, you're getting an alignment, the mind, the body, the spirit, that it all comes together. It's not just physical movement. It's not just, you know, your mind behind it telling you how to deliver the technique. It's also your spirit comes out. And in fact, when we ki-ai, when we deliver a punch and go, hey, you know, that's a type of ki-ai. That word K-I-A-I translates as spirit meeting, and that's literally where your spirit comes out to be delivered through your technique. Or as you receive a technique, you'll often ki-ai. It's really good to ki-ai if you're going to receive a technique to help disperse the force, and so that, you know, you protect your body and just help disperse that blow. And I realized when I found 7 Star, you know, very early on in the beginner cycle, I found it's like, oh, this is my art. You know, I wasn't meant to be a painter or a performer per se, though when you perform a form at times, you know, we'll do demos and that sort of thing. I mean, that's a kind of performance of putting yourself out there. And so, yeah, this is my art form. So certainly being a martial artist, you know, it's something you carry through your life. And it certainly comes into play as a parent. You know, my daughter actually is out there while we're taping. She's grown up coming to 7-Star. I trained through my pregnancy up until about my 7th month, and then I knew it was time to take my maternity leave. I actually came back to train about 3 weeks after Charlotte was born. Partly it was just something that I really wanted. I wanted to get my body back. I wanted to get back to my art and reestablish my identity of who I am, aside from just being a mother. That said, you know, I say motherhood is the best and the hardest thing I've ever done. Ultimately, in a killing art, we do learn as you advance through the art. By the time you test for the advanced rank, we ask you your philosophy behind injure, maim, and kill, because we teach you killing techniques, and you also need to have the ethics that go along with that. That's very, very important.
I started martial arts about 28 years ago, and it was after taking a self-defense class in graduate school. I moved to Seattle and asked if anyone knew something similar. And they said, hey, you should come and try, check out 7-Star Women's Kung Fu. And when I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, that's what I've always been wanting to do my entire life and didn't realize it. I was so drawn to the movement, and I knew that I could do it. So I talked my way into the beginner cycle, as I had mentioned before, and never looked back, never thought, oh, I should check out other styles. Loved 7-Star's community and the teachers. Soon became a teacher myself, and it transformed my life. I left graduate school and became a Kung Fu instructor and a self-defense instructor, and that's what I've done as my main job for the last 20 years.